Spoilers in this video. Black Myth Wukong is the best Souls-like to date.
Monkey!
So I've been playing a lot of Black Myth Wukong since launch, and I have to say, I am absolutely in love with it. My knowledge on the Monkey King story is, well, lacking to say the least, other than a crap ton of Dragon Ball being watched when I was a kid, and playing Monkey Hero on the PS1. Do any of you guys remember this game? It was PlayStation's answer to The Legend of Zelda. It never really kicked off. But oh boy, did it have a banger of a theme song.
Go, go, monkey hero, go, go!
Yeah, that's gonna be stuck in your head for the rest of the day now. Sorry, not sorry. That's what you get for watching my crappy channel. So yeah, I don't know much about this mythology, but it is such a nice breath of fresh air to see a stellar title in a subgenre of games I absolutely adore. That's actually well polished and just a generally good time. I am loving this current trend of other developers doing a new and creative thing with the Souls formula. Lies of P, though had its mechanical faults, was such a fantastic experience in my opinion, and was actually my game of the year back in 2023. And since then I have been anxiously waiting for my next meal to satisfy me just the way Lies of P did for the Souls-like game. Now Wukong is a great game, but I wouldn't say it changed my life or anything.
So. What the fuck?
But I tell you what was just as good as actually playing the game was researching people that were talking about playing the game. Game journalists had a field day and a lot of backlash on their reviews on Black Myth Wukong. The same with some general audience. I literally saw one guy say he hated this game so much within the first hour and a half that he sold his copy off secondhand. But the game is digital only till October, so I'm not sure how he did that. I don't think he played the game. And game journalists saying that a game based in East Asia around a mythology crafted in what the 16th century isn't inclusive enough for modern audiences? Huh? Like, come on, you're not gonna be playing as Miles Morales in this story. Though low-key, that would be pretty sick. Surprise, surprise, it's primarily going to be based around Asian culture, especially for that time. And not to mention, Jesus, most of the characters are based on animals anyway. Like, this is just ridiculous. Honestly, I thought it was just clickbaiting to begin with, but generally I just think they're ticking boxes that don't need to be ticked in their reviews and are probably hurting the general audience in making a decision to play this game. For an example, one infamous game journalist discussed the fact that there was a lack of women representation in the first 2 acts. Now, bearing in mind that you fight a woman as a boss in Act 3 and Act 4 is primarily based around women, like, what? Did you just not play the game? But you know what? You're right. BioShock 1 is a trash game because you don't meet your first woman NPC till a few hours in. But yeah, okay, let's put a vagina on the funny pig Danny DeVito character and call it a day. There you go. This is why over the last 10 years, I've pretty much stayed clear of game journalists when deciding to pick up a title or not. They all seem to go through this checkbox motion that, like I said, it seems to hurt the overall feeling of a game. I would avoid these game journalists as much as possible. If you want to make a decision for yourself, watch some gameplay, look up some research yourself on the game, or maybe even watch Guyinthetie. I talk about video games. Yeah, listen to me. I need the clicks. There was also a lot of issues about the contractual obligations for people not to talk about the big C and feminism. I wouldn't really give the devs too much gripe on this. It's more just them reiterating what China's state mandates, which, I mean, that's a whole can of worms. I am not intelligent enough to discuss that, and I don't really want to. That sounds like a bad time. But moving away from the politics side, Wukong is amazing, and the Monkey King himself is great. He is such an asshole.
How about you bend the knees, admit the wrongs, and we can put this behind us.
All these years,
Except for that pig. You're the one who talks the tallest tales. Good. I am entertained.
Just hearing him crack wise through the opening tutorial fight. Yes, did I stutter? Opening tutorial fight. This is the beginning of the game. If you were feeling slightly sleepy before booting up Wukong, this opening is going to slap you right in the face. It is so good. In these first 10 minutes, the Monkey King shows off his true power, and it really gives you a sense of what you could become throughout your journey. And the cinematics, man, it's literally just like watching Dragon Ball. It's so good. Unfortunately, the Monkey King just fucking dies. Yeah, I thought this game would be longer. No, we play as a descendant of the Monkey King known as the Destined One. And he is, stoic to say the least. I mean, he's just a plank of wood with a fluffy tail. The main character that you play is mute and doesn't show a hint of emotion throughout the whole playthrough. This is a drastic contrast to what we just witnessed with the Monkey King, and I don't like it. I know it's quite common for Souls-likes to have more of a link for their main protagonist, but I just wish he had a little bit more personality. Other than him pasting left and right in each and every cutscene or cinematic, looking like me waiting for the bathroom after my 5th morning coffee. Some characters will actually throw questions at our monkey boy and he just won't answer them, so they leave.
Tell me, Monkey, what's it like out there? Beyond these mountains?
It's really awkward. But where our main character's personality is lacking, the game is oozing with it. The game looks so damn good. And the attention to detail is ridiculous. People claim this game is unpolished. Well, polish this. The gameplay itself is on the easier side for a Souls-like, except the big baby at the start of the game. He hits like the tree sentinel in Elden Ring. I honestly, when booting up this game, didn't think my monk Ussie would be getting its privilege checked by a giant blue baby in the first 10 minutes. But the bosses as a whole are pretty fair and pretty skillful to beat. You fight against an impressive amount of them as well. There are 91 bosses in the game. This includes secret and optional ones. That's a lot of fights. And though the game is a little bit linear than other Souls-like games, it's not a boss rush like people are making it out to be. Yes, in Act 1 it's pretty straightforward, but this is to get a feel of the mechanics of the game and to progress the story for a new player. Once you hit Act 2 though, that all goes out the window. It is so easy to get lost and miss things in this game. It really does generally open up, and it gets more and more for the later acts. Going back to the bosses, none of them really felt cheesy to me, except the goddamn final boss of Act 2. The Yellow Sage, fuck this guy. I hate him. The fight was actually really cool up until he started cheesing it by going straight up behind the invisible wall dust storm that I can't hit him in now, great. And in the later phase, he just summons these tornadoes that home into you and send you flying. It's so aggravating. This is the only boss I hated. But like I said, the rest are pretty satisfying. It will have you drowning in endorphins and adrenaline non-stop. 91 times I got that sweet boss defeat release that I've become so addicted to thanks to this foot-loving saint, Miyazaki. I also really enjoyed the love letter cinematics to several different art styles in the main cutscenes. These generally got me super excited to complete each chapter. They could have easily just had a NPC prattle on at our monkey face, or maybe like other games that have done this sort of culture before, just done still images. They went above and beyond, and it's definitely worth a shout out. They are beautiful. There are issues with Wukong though, like the NPC quest lines. As a Souls player, I am used to NPC quest lines being far too easy to miss or just downright broken. but that shouldn't give it a pass. For instance, there's a guy later on in a secret area that gives you a quest to explore and kill a bunch of monks. You do this until an item drops and you take it back to him. Pretty easy, I can just be doing that while I explore. But if you accidentally walk into the boss arena for this area, which is super easy to do, there's no fog gates in Wukong, you can just stumble into a fight. This will lock you out of his quest line for that playthrough. There goes your 100% and you lose out on some pretty awesome items. Your classic Souls enjoyer will accept this and it will just be something they're aware of for New Game Plus, so they don't do it again. But in any other type of game, this would be an issue and it should be sorted out. And I don't think this was intentional. I think this was a bug in Wukong, because when you travel back to this area, it will show him as an NPC still available to talk to, but he's just not there. Hopefully this gets ironed out because it was really frustrating because it happened to me. That's all that matters. Me. My experience was ruined. I sound like a game journalist. There's no women in this game. There's too many monkeys. The game can go a little bit too hard on the invisible walls too. It's pretty inconsistent as well. Sometimes you'll walk over to an invisible wall that's on kind of obvious terrain that you could explore, and in other times where you think there should be an invisible wall, you'll just get knocked off the map. It can be kind of frustrating. Act 1 is set in a quaint forest that slowly turns into a straight up forest fire when you get to a boss with Yogi the bear. And we're gonna take a second to talk about the level of detail on this bear's butt. It's crazy. This is definitely a Souls game. So our objective in this game is to head off and acquire all 5 of the Monkey King's relics. Wait, did Harry Potter steal the idea for the Horcruxes from the Journey to the West? Like I mentioned, this act is extremely linear, and I can get why it gives a bad first impression to some gamers, but trust me, this is only temporary. The game, I promise you, will open up once we defeat the bear. Just think of this as like a tutorial act. Act 2 is set in a desert, and just like Act 1 starts with a dead monkey. This is also a sign of things to come because the archer enemy types are the bane of my existence. I hate these guys. They only really do chip damage and don't really stagger, but my god, is it irritating to get hit by them. But it's not all bad. We do get some awesome, authentic live music as we progress by this headless monk. How are you singing, dude? Wouldn't it be more like this? Though mad respect, he is shredding that thing. And the game really does open up in Act 2. There are several NPC cutscenes and optional areas and bosses in Act 2, and this continues throughout the rest of the game. It's here where we get our first Ornstein and Smo boss fight, and it's pretty dope. The little rat will throw rocks at you throughout the boss fight as you deal with the big one, but thank God they actually can hit the other rat to do some extra damage. I love that attention to detail. If you go out of your way to kill the little guy first, this will make the boss much harder. We also get to meet a drunk Pumbaa that, if we follow his questline, will take us back in time to fight a giant scorpion. I think this is the same scorpion the Yellow Sage throws at you in his boss fight. It's a pretty cool area. Again, the game really does reward you for following these quest lines and exploring the locations. Like I mentioned, I absolutely hated the Yellow Sage boss fight. This attack just seems to auto-home on me constantly. The Yellow Sage will punt you in the air just like Dad did when his beer was slightly too warm. I hate this boss and my childhood. Moving on to Act 3 takes us to a snowy mountain. And hang on a minute, I thought this was a man's game. I was promised no woman in Wukong. What the fuck? We get an awesome fight with a literal dragon, which, my god, did I mess up the immobilize spell so much in this fight. This right here, this hurts. This feels bad, man. Any Wukong player knows the pain of this right here. After this boss, we get sent to what I assume is hell. Getting some serious Demon Souls nostalgia right now. In this area, every few minutes, you'll be hit with a debuff and constantly get attacked by these Cthulhu-looking dudes. And they hit hard. This was quite spooky the first time it happened, but throughout this location, it can get a bit irritating. I just ended up waiting outside of a shrine till the debuff reverted back, just to try and speed up the process and make things a bit easier. But you definitely want to fight these guys when they do show up. They drop a crap ton of Will Smiths. The boss here is against a giant horse? What the fuck is this? Many gamers consider this the first real wall in Wukong, and he honestly is not that bad. It's all about the heavy attacks in this fight. Hitting his weak leg will actually make him stagger a lot when you use a heavy attack. I had far more trouble with the yellow sage than this boss. The final boss is with Yellowbrow, and it's such a long fight. It's broken up into several sections, but if you're a god gamer like me, you play these back to back and it really feels like your endurance is being tested. It lasts like 20 to 30 minutes. You do get a little break where you turn into the winged bats from Wizard of Oz, but it's pretty consistent for the fights, especially if you can do the encounter back to back. It feels so good, trust me. I've looked online and you do get checkpoints throughout these fights, so don't worry if you lose. My only criticism is that Yellowbrow does not shut the fuck up. He spouts nonsense the entire fight. It is so distracting.
With but one hand upon my gut. No one should touch. I persist with this path.
If he's gonna commentate on my fight, the least he could do is an Asmongold and pause the video. I was just looking for a random clip, but I actually unironically love these little things. These are beautiful. Best breakfast. Standard Asmongold W. Act 4 takes us deep down into the earth for my own personal hell. And it's not just the 8-legged freaks. These flying enemies here are so trollish. Whenever you try to take one out, they will just glide off the edge. And because there's a bit of homing on attacks, you follow them. It happens far too often. Every boss in this section gives me some serious ick. It is not the one for you if you're like me and have a crippling fear of these little guys. But nothing prepared me for this section. There was something about being chased by a wave of spiders and having them pour through the terrain and crevasses like flowing water. Honestly, I think it made me pee a little bit. It was fucking horrifying. I hated it so much. This section is probably the worst section I've had in a video game for a long time, and will most likely be the source of my nightmares for the next 2 decades. And the final boss is with the 100-Eye Doused. And though the fight is insane to look at, I kind of thought it was a bit cheesy to start with. When you first encounter this boss, it's pretty cool because these spiders that have been giving you grief throughout the chapter actually help you in the fight, and it's pretty cool, and it distracts him to get a bit of damage on. If you lose the fight and redo it, he does have a little bit of damage taken off, but nowhere near the amount you would have had in that first encounter, so be careful. Later in the fight, he will do a spell that completely makes all of your spells useless. No transformation, no parry, no immobilization. It's literally just mono-e-mono, which wouldn't be too bad, but he also really affects your health and stam and slows your movement down. It is so annoying. But I said it seemed cheesy. I don't know if it really was. Like with most of the fights, I seem to have just sucked it up and got good, and it wasn't actually that bad. Still nothing compared to the yellow fucking sage. Act 5 is based around a fiery mountain, and this one is far more linear than the last 3 acts. We actually have the end of a questline with the horse NPC here, and it ends, poorly. Now, this is a guy that we have met throughout our journey, and we've talked to him and he's been talking about how he's exploring the world himself, trying to follow in his master's footsteps. It's pretty sad to see him go down here. His last task is to help us avenge him by killing the boss in this area, and he will actually use a horse summon in the boss fight. It's pretty dope. I don't know if he does this if you don't do that NPC questline, but it happened for me and it was really cool. We also get a back-to-back boss fight with Red Boy and Red Man, I guess. But I mean, just look at this. I'm not even going to talk about it. This fight is awesome. We do also get a really unique boss that I didn't truly understand the mechanics, but it has some seriously good head physics, so it's a win from me. And oh look, another not a man NPC. And that leads us to the final act, Act 6. And this is on the Monkey King's mountain itself. And it is actually a boss rush. You have to defeat 5 bosses to acquire the Monkey King's armor. It's not too bad, but oh no, not again. We also get the most random boss fight in this section as our raw bacon companion decides to just randomly eat a grasshopper and makes us go inside him to kill it because it's causing him some serious digestion issues. Just when you think the game has played all of its cards, it does something so fucking out of left field. I love it so much. The thing of note of this section is that you do get to fly around on the flying nimbus. The somersaulting cloud. And though it's a very diet-heavy act, there's not much going on. Even the landscape, though, feels really big. It's quite empty. You still get that sense of being just like Goku, and it's really cool, man. A lot of this game is just really cool, man. But speaking of Goku, you can actually already mod him in to the game to play as, and it works so well. I am 100% doing this in my New Game Plus run. So those are the acts, but the boss fights as a whole have some of the best cinematics I have ever seen. And moments that literally made me gasp. The final fight with the husk of the Monkey King at the end of Act 6 is an incredibly tough fight, definitely worthy of being the final boss. But the fact that he can just randomly freeze you, because he has the same spells as you do, mid-healing, and just snatch away your gourd and use it on himself, that is some hype shit right there. Bro just stole my drink and gave me his germs, and I'm sitting here with an erection. Chills, guys. Literal chills. It's honestly a great time, and despite everyone in this world being extremely racist to monkeys, the NPCs can be fantastic too. They'll be a great help to you on your journey, and some friendlies that you meet can even be challenged for an optional boss fight. The fight with the blacksmith is stellar in my opinion, absolutely flawless. I mean, look at this gameplay.
Down with might!
Like I mentioned, the quest lines with NPCs are typical Souls formula. They can be incredibly difficult to follow without a guide, but these will often lead to either optional boss fights, epic gear, or a straight up secret section of the map, or death. The secret areas in Wukong are insanely impressive also, from small ones like opening a pathway in Act 1 to an optional boss fight behind a waterfall, or an entirely new mountain area to explore. And people were calling this game extremely linear? What? I mean, sure, they're entitled to their opinion, but I found it incredibly rewarding checking every nook and cranny because you don't know what's gonna lead where. Yeah, the area designs are not anything close to like Dark Souls, and nowhere near that finely crafted, but it's not a corridor. There is some movement to explore, and while you're exploring, the game will give you incredible tools to do so. The freeze spell is a must, but you do eventually get rock solid, like I am now. That is essentially your parry. It can't be used on all bosses, but it's almost a damn near requirement for others. Multi-boss fight? Not a problem, just use the Shadow Clone Jutsu. I also liked as you continue the story, you get to know more about the Monkey King, and that this guy that we assume was like a revered, all-round good guy is actually a bit of a dick. Even the main guy at the start of the game who kind of praises the Monkey King and sets you on your path thinks the Monkey King himself was a bit of a tosser. And speaking of progression, it is great to grow the Destined One from just being a monkey with a big stick to a god-killing machine. I mean, just look at me. This armor set is so metal. I love it. I love this game. I can't stop saying how much I enjoyed this game. It's very biased. I'm sorry. Squeezing 91 bosses into a 30-hour playtime, yeah, will come across a little bit like a boss rush just because of the sheer quantity. But isn't that why we play these games? I never see people talk about running through Raya Lucaria in Elden Ring or exploring the Duke's Archives in Dark Souls 1. It's always been about the bosses. And this game having so many finely crafted ones and only a really small amount of repeats, I'm talking like 1 or 2, in this huge roster is mighty impressive. This is a game that I will go back to time and time again and honestly deserves the massive amount of players that are enjoying this game right now. And I hope with this sudden success, the developer will continue to knock out bangers just like Wukong in the same vein. And that other developers will take this as a turning point for the genre and start upping the quality of these titles. I want them to keep improving and not be just a quick cash grab on a demographic of players that love these games, but for the pure dedication and appreciation for this art form, spawned by a man who just loves them toesies. So was Black Myth Wukong really that good? I mean, do I have to answer that at this point? Oh my god, yes it was. It was so good. I'm already getting excited to play New Game Plus because I just can't stop with this game. If you haven't checked it out and still watched this far into the video, even with the spoilers, please go check it out. My trashy video content does not do it justice. It is worth every single penny, despite what this guy says. It's addictive, it's beautiful, it's full of personality and gritty and gruesome confrontations. And honestly, every other adjective you can think of. So go check it out. Sorry this video was a little shorter than usual. I wasn't actually planning on doing a vid on Wukong, but I just got so sucked into the game that I had to say my piece on the title. As always, I would love to give a massive thank you and shout out to these Monkey Kings for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you Pitstab, Ali Tato, The Shane 209, and Chris Spicer. You are the monkey heroes to this guy in a tie. As always, viewer, have a great night. I'll see you in the next one. Hi out. Peace. There's too many monkeys.